Good morning. Abstinence, experience strength and hope from members of Overeaters Anonymous. This one is titled A Program of Many Colors. Abstinence. It can baffle, direct, control me. It tells me if I'm a good OA or in relapse. It gives me the means to proudly, or is it humbly, say, I've been abstinent for X numbers of days, weeks, months, years. Only by its grace can I be blessed to help another compulsive overeater. For me, there are two kinds of abstinence. The tool I used to help me get through the first 9 steps, and the gift I received that stays with me on a daily basis if I keep in good spiritual condition. Early in my OA program, I needed to learn discipline when it comes to food, and so I used abstinence as a tool. I found it paradoxical to surrender to a new form of control. I had admitted I was powerless over food and my life and eating were unmanageable. By using the tools, OA gave me a new way to control my food. I learned to call my sponsor before difficult meals like potlucks or dining out, and to eat a normal amount of food at each meal. I began to eat not to lose weight, but in a way I could eat every day for the rest of my life. Even if it was not yet rational even if I was not yet rational when it came to food, the amount of food I ate was. No more deprivation, no more waiting for the end of a diet when I could eat lots again. This was forever, one day at a time. During this 3-year period, I sometimes put my dependence on gum or diet sodas to get me from one meal to the next, and I often white-knuckled it. But there were also periods, sometimes a day, sometimes as long as a week, when I got a foretaste of the freedom from compulsive overeating. Oh, that is promised in step 9. I knew my abstinence wasn't going to be a struggle forever. But until I finished the recovering steps, I had to be willing to fight my desire to overeat with every tool in OA, including my strict, controlled form of abstinence. After almost 10 years working our 12-step program of recovery, I have experienced a different phenomenon: freedom from compulsive overeating. This is something different than 3 weighed and measured meals. This is freedom. What I eat and when I eat are no longer central to my program. I no longer work on abstinence. It's not a tool I pick up in the morning and cut my way through life with. It's a peaceful sanity in relationship to food and eating. No more scales, no more fear of loss of control. Instead, a trust in a higher power, and steps 10, 11, and 12 keep me from indulging in my old need to eat to cope with life. I've had 4 slips, eating too much and feeling guilty about it, in 10 years. After each slip, I've needed to surrender again to a disciplined way of eating by weighing and measuring for a couple of days to get me back into sane quantities, freeing me to return to my fit spiritual condition. I do have a few rules for myself. I stay away from certain foods because I have no good reason to eat them and they've caused me trouble in the past. But if they're served to me, I ask my higher power to help me decide sanely. Abstinence is a tool and a gift. I found it helpful to be patient and understanding with myself and others when we need to humbly use this tool, and grateful when I and others receive this precious gift. This message is from South Africa. That's one of the best stories that I've read so far, and there's a whole book left to read, but that's the clearest, cleanest message of a real solution here in the process of working the steps. And I'm experiencing what this member has shared in my AANA world, right? I have thoroughly worked the first 9 steps really for the best, uh, with the best results that I've ever had most recently, and the last week or so of beginning this process of moving over to Overeaters Anonymous, um, elements of abstinence, finding this idea of freedom from compulsive overeating as a very large component of my uh, disease's symptoms. I'm starting to have this notion of having a real freedom of compulsive and obsessive thinking, compulsive actions and obsessive thinking. And ultimately realizing as doing my 10th step is that I didn't do any harm to myself yesterday. Like I've done a thorough eighth step list and a ninth step. And everybody on my 8 step list, I have made either a direct amend to and I've altered the behavior, or I've just altered the behavior and I've had to do an indirect amends. And I've done that in a couple of different forms. So I have done my part. I am good. I am forgiven. And I have forgiven everybody who's ever harmed me. And I've forgiven myself for the harm that I have perpetrated. And and that is clear and clean and done. I am on the other side of that. And now for these last couple of weeks, it's like, okay, the last person that I've been harming is me. I will always be on that list. And if I can get through a 24-hour period without doing harm, then that's miraculous. And it's happening while doing these readings and doing these videos. And um, nominally, I haven't really engaged my sponsor in with this completely. But the cool thing is that meeting that I attend with my sponsor, uh, for years now, it has been the habit to have, candies spread out over the entire table and that everybody's indulging during the meeting. And since I've shared that I'm doing this process, there's at least, I know, at least 2 other solid OA people at that meeting. It's an AA meeting. But 2 weeks ago, all of the candy was left in a big tub in the middle of the table so that if somebody wanted it, they could reach in and grab it as opposed to having it spread around all the table. And it was far enough away from me that that completely worked. I wasn't struggling with indulging. And I had basically surrendered to that. Like I tried to bring my own snack with me, and I tried different things, but mostly I just surrendered and I gobbled. I would gobble 5, 6, 7, 10 pieces of wrapped candy, and you know, I just surrendered to that. But this last week, there was another move where that tub of candy was put off to a side table. So again, if anybody wanted it, they could get up and go over there and get it. But it wasn't on the main table. And this is a meeting this last week. There was 30 people there. So that was a ton, typically a ton of candy spread around that table. And I would just sit there and look at it and look at it and look at it. And, that wasn't there. And I got a real clear sense that, it was higher power, but also the higher power in the form of kind and considerate, compassionate fellow recovering people, knowing that that's a struggle, and doing for me what I can't do for myself. And I was touched. I was touched that I came into that meeting and there was no temptation on the tabletop for me during that meeting. It was really a sweet moment. So anyways, that's all I got. That's a great story. I love this one. I'm going to earmark it, come back to it. That's really, truly inspirational. So, have a great day.